Hello, 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 FA Nation. What is up? I'm Brandon Marianne Lee. You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon her FFB. I am here with the one, the only Howard Bender. You can follow him on Twitter at RotoBuzzGuy. Howard Bender, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Brandon. It was a nice little 4th of July. Now we're back in the swing of things. And, it's funny. Once the 4th of July hits, like, boom, everybody's focus turns to fantasy football as opposed to fantasy baseball. And here we are. We're like smack dab already in the middle of our NFL coverage, but let's go. Let's get busy.
That is right. This is, yeah, exactly. July 4th, in my opinion, means that it is fantasy football season. You have no excuse. You got to get it together. We got a wave from Brian Skinny McKinney. Hello, Brian. Yeah, everybody, we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on YouTube. We are on fantasyalarm.com right now. So go ahead, share your comments, ask your questions. We are here for you. Today we're going to focus on the AFC and the NFC North. But that doesn't mean that we can't get to all of your questions because a lot of you are making dynasty, keeper, question, kind of decisions right now. Hi, Jordan. He said, I'm my faves. What's up, Jordan? We have a lot of questions. Also, a lot of you are participating in the Scott Fish Bowl. Howard's too good for us. He's not going to participate. But a lot of people have questions about that too.
You know what? I actually got a message from Scott Fish the other day who threw me an option. I guess I had I think I threw him a follow on Twitter a while back. I don't even know, but he was like, I just noticed that you were following me on Twitter. So I think I should extend an invitation to you. I was like, hey, tell me when the drafts are. I'll see if I can do it. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
You should do it. It is one of those annoying long drafts, but it is the fun one that there's like hundreds of people doing it, and it's really fun. It starts on July 9th.
Don't you think that puts you at a bit of a disadvantage, though, in the field of winning the entire thing, Brandon? I mean, this is me we're talking about. Howard Bender, Rotobus guy.
Yeah, no, it's true. I actually do not play this one to win. I shouldn't say that. I always play to win, but there are so many people that I'm always like, man, if I could just get in the playoffs. And by the way, actually, I treat all of my fantasy leagues like that. I believe I have won if I've gotten to the playoffs. At least it means that I've played good enough fantasy football to not embarrass myself. So I always try to get into the playoffs, and then from there, it's week to week. So that's how this game goes.
See, I think that's the right move. That's the way to look at it. Everybody wants to run the table. Everybody wants to go 13-0 and be the number 1 seed in the playoffs and have a bye week, whatever. No. You just need to make it to the playoffs. I don't give a damn if you're the 6th team in the playoffs or the 5th team in the playoffs. Get to the playoffs because then everything is different. Then it's just, sudden death elimination there. So don't sweat so much trying to have the perfect season in the regular season. It doesn't matter if you have you could be 13-0 and lose in the first round of the playoffs and just feel like an idiot. So just get to the playoffs. That's it. That's the goal.
That's the goal. And we actually make jokes about our family league where my 2 sisters also who make up her fantasy football. We always say that the person that is the last seed in the playoffs ends up winning the league 9 times out of 10. And part of that's because they're on a momentum. They were able to get some good waiver picks in there, what have you. So again, always play all the way through and get to your playoffs. And I'm just throwing pens because that's what I do. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, though, again, you can go to Facebook, you can go to Twitter, you can go to YouTube, you can go to fantasyalarm.com. We are here for you. But we're going to talk about the news because there is news. All right, so number one is let's just go ahead and let's get right to it. Calvin Ridley was signed by the Atlanta Falcons. As all these rookies are going to get eventually signed, so these are not actual news blurbs. That's all I wanted to say about it. Just FYI. There is nothing interesting happening here unless it's Jared Bosa from a couple of years ago. Edelman, though, lost his appeal. He will serve the 4-game suspension. That was of zero surprise. Guys, zero surprise. So, listen, okay, they don't know exactly what the substance is, but how it reacted to his, testosterone levels and what have you, it doesn't matter. In actually the CBA for the drugs, it does not matter. If it acts like the drug, it is the drug in terms of how they determine that. So he will only be there starting the beginning of week 5. Howard, we touched on this when the suspension news first came out. Do you have any new thoughts on this? How do you feel, and how should people approach this moving forward?
I don't really have any new thoughts on it. It is what it is. The suspension. I'm just glad to see that the suspension was actually upheld, and that it was the full 4 games. That they didn't chop it down for the whole. Oh well, they mishandled the style, or they mishandled the sample, or whatever garbage excuse he was trying to employ there. It didn't work. So as far as fantasy fallout for the team, listen, I think it's the same thing that we thought before. Chris Hogan, he'll have a really nice bump in targets, at least for those first 4 weeks. Gronk, obviously. I mean, if people want to try and fluff Jordan Matthews, go ahead. I'm not in on that, but I think Hogan, oh man, I got Hogan the other day in like the 11th round. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that pick for right now. Gronk is Gronk, and you take Gronk where you take him, but I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing Chris Hogan's ADP climb a little bit, and maybe those random Jordan Matthews truthers, they'll start crawling out of the woodwork, but I wouldn't listen to them.
Yeah, I just think this means more Gronk. I don't know.
Probably. I mean,
yeah. I think this is almost
non-news.
Yeah. I mean, they went a whole year without Edelman, so I don't know why we're freaking out like this matters. It's the Patriots. They'll figure it out. I do think, though, that Edelman is still a value, probably where he'll drop in leagues, because once he comes back, I think that he'll be just as involved. You are taking a little bit of a risk there, but he's falling enough far into the draft that I think that he's still worth it. If you can get him in the 7th or later round, I think he's still a value. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Right after the report that Aaron Jones is bulking up and going to be better in pass protection, and all these Spark Score groupies were like, I love Aaron Jones, it came out that he's suspended for 2 games because of the marijuana-related traffic charge in March. This is, of course, again, 0% surprise. I'm actually surprised it wasn't more, if anything else.
Where was he arrested?
I can't remember.
I mean, was he arrested in Wisconsin? Or was he arrested in a state before marijuana was legalized? I mean, see, here's the thing, and I'll say this is a blanket statement. If you're testing positive for marijuana or whatever, I don't believe you should be suspended. A, it's not a performance-enhancing drug, and B, it's probably saving lives of numerous athletes out there who would go to the club, pop bottles, get drunk, belligerent, angry, fight, stab, shoot, whatever the case may be? Or would you rather them just sitting at home playing Fortnite because they're all high and all just ripping bong hits and playing video games with their buddies? I think that's actually going to help keep more athletes out of trouble in the long run if they do that. So fine, it's not a legalized drug in every state, so the suspension has to hold. But I think teams like the NFL and MLB, I think they need to revisit their drug policy as far as ruling out marijuana. Now, obviously, you don't want your guy stoned before the game or anything like that. So maybe you check him out then. But really, man, if it's nighttime and he's just, doing his own thing, it's the off season, let him get high. Come on.
Well, listen, I have no opinions about that. Obviously, it's not performance enhancing unless it's the performance that you have sleeping on your couch. I mean, it's not really going to help you.
I love sleeping on my couch.
Hey,
my couch is a haven.
10 out of 10. Sleeping on the couch. But as far as what's going on in the NFL, it doesn't matter because, again, if it's against the law and because the charges and whatnot, and if it's against the rules. Listen, I mean, human growth hormone, a lot of the versions of that are not illegal, but you still can't do it if you're an athlete.
Well, I mean, then they check your testosterone levels, and human growth hormone in excessive amounts is going to lead towards being a performance-enhancing drug. It's not like weed. I don't know. Smoke 20
I know women
joints.
that take HGH to not age. I'm just saying, there are a lot of things that are out there that aren't necessarily legal, but you can't take them if you're in the NFL, and that's where we are on this. It just is, you can't do it in the NFL. So he can't do it. And the fact of the matter is, I've been saying this the whole time. Jamal Williams is the guy you want anyway. He is the better, solid, traditional running back, and they already have Ty Montgomery. They already have Randall Cobb in the slot. They have all these gadget guys. So the only person who can actually pound the rock up the middle is Jamal Williams. So his role is set.
Yeah, listen, that the suspension announced made me hate you so much less for the Jamal Williams pick in the FSTA draft.
Right. I've been telling you the whole time. But listen, I mean, Josh Gordon, Aaron Jones, all these guys smoking weed, I don't care emotionally or, morally about it whatsoever. I do care about Reuben Foster. So he's on defense, but he's suspended 2 games. And I just want to say there is a huge difference between Reuben Foster, who has a lot of issues and violence and craziness, and then Aaron Jones, who got stopped having some weed. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's still going to be suspended for 2 games, and that is news. And it definitely gives Jamal Williams even more of the inside track to be the guy.
Which also just shows you how ridiculous and arbitrary these suspensions are. Because what Aaron Jones did versus what Reuben Foster did, come on, Winston. Really?
Who also lied and said that this woman was lying for a year. And then he's like, whoops, actually, I'm sorry that I put her in a bad position for over a year. Anyway.
Yeah, he's not sorry.
He's not sorry. He's not sorry at all. Another PED suspension came down for Robert Turbin. Now, we barely say this guy's name because we don't need to, but I just want to reemphasize here that the Indianapolis backfield is a complete clown car. I feel like running backs keep coming out of the car, how do they all fit in here? And that's going to be the conversation is so stay away. That's what I'm going to say about that. Most of them are rookies too. Jordan says Josh Gordon had a crazy season while being high. Agreed. I guess you can be high and still be awesome. You're right. We don't care about that.
Case in point right here.
We don't care.
It doesn't affect my job performance.
That's right. That's what I say about my wine. But I still think Rick would look down upon me with a wine glass on the live feed. Although I have thought about it on numerous occasions. On the really bad days, I'm like, would he really be mad if I had a wine glass out?
Well, what you do is you hide it in like a red Solo cup, but we track how purple your teeth get as the live stream goes on. All of a sudden, we're getting hot take after hot take. Wow, is that magenta in your mouth? What is that?
Woo! So, no. Listen, we're going to talk about the AFC and the NFC North, so we're going to get a little more into the Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams situation. But as I said last week, as I said in my videos on fantasyalarm.com, as I continue to say, we don't really care about a lot of these reports, like people got signed or they look good in camp, but we do care about suspensions. Those are solid, real things, tangible things that are happening, so take note, which is why we always start the show with those things. So let's go ahead and let's just get to the AFC and the NFC North. So do you want to start with the AFC or the NFC? What is your desire?
I'll start with, since we've been talking about the Packers and stuff, let's just go with the NFC North. Let's kick it off there and then save some juicy critique for the AFC in the second half.
Great. And, we're going to start with the Green Bay Packers because, we usually go in alphabetical order, right? We go AFC and then NFC, and then we start Chicago Bears. No, let's just throw it all out the window. Let's start with the Green Bay Packers and the NFC North because we don't care about order. All right. Except for Jordan Bowen just said NFL needs consistency. They do, but we don't. So we're going to mix it up. Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers, good at football. There's no analysis for some of these guys. And I think it's important to say that there's a reason why, because people do say well, I want you guys to talk a little bit more. It's because we only have a condensed amount of time. And we're going to be doing player profiles and whatnot on fantasyalarm.com. I'm working on some videos. We're going to have these great write-ups. And we do need to get into some of these top tier guys. But because we only have so much time, Aaron Rodgers is good, but don't spend your draft capital on him because we believe in late round quarterback, right? I mean, that's really the analysis we have to give here.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. I went back and forth with Jim Bowden on the show today. He took Deshaun Watson ahead of Aaron Rodgers in yesterday's draft. Part and partial because he, obviously he's got certain quarterbacks on his board, but then he also kind of confessed that he also did it to screw me over because he knew that I was going to take Deshaun Watson in the 5th round with my next pick. So he sacrificed a little bit there in quarterback and skipped over Aaron Rodgers to screw over his buddy. So I respect that. I respect that in the fantasy game.
I don't, but I will say also it's funny because Howard is my boss and my colleague, but we are doing these player profiles and I'm worried because I'm going to start with Deshaun Watson and he and I feel very, very differently about Deshaun Watson. But regardless, I just don't believe in taking any quarterback ahead of the 7th round at the earliest this year. And to be honest with you, I just did a mock actually on the Fantasy Network. I did a couple other mocks where I took my quarterback as my last 2 picks. This last mock, I got Matt Ryan and Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. And they were literally my last 2 picks. And that's why I'm not touching these guys. Not because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is fantastic at football. You guys, at every single metric, Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest that's playing the game right now. He and Tom Brady, absolutely. But you don't need to do it. You just don't have to take a quarterback. So
I'm with you. I've been waiting a lot longer. There are some leagues where I'm going to take Deshaun Watson in the 5th if it falls to me, just for the hell of it. I want the investment there. I do. But for the most part, I've been like chilling at like the 11th round, 12th round with Jimmy Grapes, Jared Goff, kind of pairing them up with like a backup of Case Keenum. Or Eli Manning. I mean, it's like Blake Bortles. There's another one, right? Like, why wouldn't you do that if you're going to take a shot on a certain guy, who you hope that he takes the next step? Like, I'll give you the example. Last year, I went all in on Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota, thinking he was going to take the next step. But with my last pick, I went with an upside play here just in case that hit. And that ended up as Carson Wentz. This year, I don't see them, I don't see us having like a Carson Wentz type guy. So if you just fall back to those just savvy veterans, there's a reason these guys have jobs in the NFL. So Keenum, Bortles, and I know, Brandon, I know you don't like Eli. I do like Eli this year with the ground game. But yeah, I'm with you there. So
I'm fine with where Eli is going. I just read to you one of these like salary cap leagues, whatever. I took Eli Manning in that. Listen, he's value now. I just don't ascribe to him being a top 5 guy. I don't see that to be a possibility because of the turnovers. And his turnovers has been happening consistently for years. That's just not going to stop. If you're in a league, I will say this about also Blake Bortles, although Blake Bortles goes back and forth about being okay on this. But if you're in a league that has high penalties for turnovers, there are certain people that are very difficult to do late round with. That'd be Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers. Go and look at the turnover percentages. Jameis Winston. Just don't touch the guys with these high turnover percentages because that will kill you. So, and we always say this, know your league settings. We're working on an article right now. Howard's doing one that's basic stuff like that. But listen, we say it's basic and everyone every year, they don't read their league settings. And then they come to us and they cry. And we're like, hello, it was in your settings.
Yeah, I'm actually that article is coming out in the draft guide later on tonight. I'm actually writing it about reading the rules. Stop being an idiot. So, all right. Well, I've strayed us off the path of the NFC North here on the Aaron Rodgers talk here. So let's keep going.
Let's get to Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones and Ty Montgomery. That's right. So I think right now we have to say that Jamal Williams is the inside track guy. I think Ty Montgomery is going to be used more. We have injury issues. We have injury issues with Aaron Jones. So for the most part, we talk a lot about the kind of handcuff situation. You had a great article last week. In this case, it's kind of more like, do you want the gadget guy or do you want Jamal Williams? Is there really a handcuff here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I feel like Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones are the handcuff. Ty Montgomery, possibly the 3rd down back. But right now, I mean, there's a lot of question marks going on here as far as what's going to happen with Montgomery given Randall Cobb's injury. Now, it's a foot injury. If everything's fine with Randall Cobb, well, then they can put Randall Cobb, back into the slot. There's also the question of who's going to be the outside receiver. Do they move Randall Cobb to the outside and Ty Montgomery takes that slot receiver spot there? So I think that if you're looking for the fight between which running back, it's between Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, not Ty Montgomery. Leave him as the quote-unquote 3rd down back or slot receiver, and then you just battle between the two. And considering Williams is the guy who's going to be getting the rock at least these first 2 these 2 weeks. I'm getting all choked up talking about him because I'm so excited.
Emotionally speaking.
But the dude's going to get a bunch of carries for the first 2 weeks, so he's got the chance. If he shines in these first 2 weeks, well, then they're going to leave him and not get Aaron Jones in there.
Yeah, I agree. So I think your instinct here is right. We kind of have to talk about the wide receivers at the same time as the running backs for the Green Bay Packers. Because 2 years ago, they just went without a running back. Remember, they just kind of threw Ty Montgomery in there like at the very end because Eddie Lacy had this like weird injury issue and that was bizarre. But yeah, so what do you think is going to happen? So Devontae Adams is the #1 scoring wide receiver in terms of touchdowns over the last 2 seasons combined in the entire National Football League. But then they brought in, we're going to have to talk about all of them together because then they brought in Jimmy Graham, who was one of the highest scoring tight ends last season. Now he had a tough start with Seattle, so there is this getting used to another team thing here. But that's interesting. They let Jordy Nelson go. They've got Randall Cobb in the slot, but then they have Geronimo Allison, who I guess is their wide receiver 3. They brought in a bunch of rookies. And we don't know how they're all going to work out. How do these targets get mapped out? And especially when you bring in the Ty Montgomerys and the Aaron Jones of the world.
I kind of feel like that, Devontae Adams is going to lead this team in targets. He's going to. Now, Jimmy Graham will see targets, hopefully, now that the Packers realize that they don't really have a genuine outside wide receiver to be, to work to be the Z receiver to Devontae Adams being the X. So, as a result of that, I do think that Jimmy Graham will see a slight uptick in targets from what we've seen tight ends in Green Bay do. He'll see red zone targets. Like I said, they can move Cobb to the outside and let Ty Montgomery play the slot and go with a more traditional running back situation there. Or Geronimo Allison's or one of these young kids, Equinemius, St. Brown, or whoever it's going to be, that they step up during training camp and show that they can handle being the Z receiver, which would then push Cobb back to the situation in the slot, which moves Ty Montgomery into the third down back role solely with Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones fighting it out. So I feel like it's going to be that way, and I feel like if like gut instinct here is that Cobb works the outside and Montgomery works the slot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I remember when they moved Cobb outside. Remember when Jordy Nelson was hurt and it was just disaster. So that makes me not want Cobb. Like if Cobb's not going to do what he does best, I'm concerned. And I know he's kind of a trendy pick right now in fantasy circles. So I'll say this, if they start doing that, I'm out. I'm out. Even though he has a low ADP, I think that's a real issue. We saw it. It's a real issue. Okay, well, that's really all of them. I think that our problem with Jimmy Graham is that Aaron Rodgers doesn't use Jimmy Graham, and Jimmy Graham takes time getting used to a team. So he's getting overdrafted. Am I right? I mean, we agree on that, right?
Yes.
Because he's being drafted like it's, But remember they did this with Darius Green, too, when he went to the Packers. They always overdraft whoever goes to the Packers to go against or to go with Aaron Rodgers, and then they end up being meh. I mean, every year. Just because Aaron Rodgers is good does not mean that the tight end's good. So we're going to go to the Bears. And you want to know why we're going to go to the Bears? Because, again, I'm not doing continuity here. And we had Sean Janko say, bear down. So I want to talk about the Bears. He wants to talk about the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky had probably the worst situation in the National Football League in terms of coaching, in terms of play calling. They were only letting him pass the ball like 9 times a game. This year, they're going to take the training wheels off, and I'm kind of excited to see him. And I will say this, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, I like guys like Mitchell Trubisky at the end because he doesn't have any threats to take his job. So I would rather have him than someone like Joe Flacco / Lamar Jackson because we don't know who it's going to be. Whereas Mitchell Trubisky, it's him. You guys, they're dedicated to him. And that's how I felt about Jared Goff last year. I think if anyone's going to take a big step forward, I think it's Mitchell Trubisky. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. I'm very sorry to cut this a little on the short side here. I would have loved to have done it, but apparently we are receiving word that there are some technical difficulties, Brandon. So I would love to get into everything here, but apparently I'm told that we need to just kind of wrap it up here. So guess what, guys? Brandon and I, we're gonna wrap things up here for the time being. We're gonna sort through some of these computer issues that we're having here with the live stream. My new supercomputer is en route, at least according to the folks at Dell. So hopefully we won't be experiencing these problems again. And then maybe Brandon, what we'll do is we'll do like a bonus live stream either over the weekend or early next week. Does that work for you?
It works for me.
All right. FA Nation, truly sorry about the technical issues there. I'm sorry you were watching a Kung Fu movie with Brandon and I chatting. We love you very much. We're going to get this resolved, and we're going to be back before you know it. So, sayonara, everybody. Brandon, say goodnight.